When we were in the process of making the constitution in the early 2000s, Ali Mazrui delivered a paper in the year 2000. The title of the paper, If African Politics Are Ethnically Prone, Can We Have Constitutions That Are Ethnic Proof? And in that paper, Ali argues, amongst other things, that typically in a number of African countries, Kenya included, the tribe is actually a tool that is used by the myopic politician to manipulate their people. Because the truth be told, if a minister is from your tribe, what change in your life does it bring about? Is the education the sector the better for you because it's from your tribe, or the health sector the better for you, or agriculture the better for you? This is simply something that benefits the individual and a few. And unless we realize that, perhaps what happens is that when a cabinet minister is appointed from your tribe, they slaughter 30 cows for the day. Perhaps that is the only thing you enjoy. But beyond that, they have a national duty. And I have held the view that we can change it. The very reason why, when we were talking about political parties fund, and City, you've mentioned it, we were saying that if you want to put together a political party in Kenya, it must have a national face. It must have a presence, physical presence, in at least half of the counties. And we fund them. That is the whole idea of funding political parties, so that it's not dependent on individuals. But we have failed. We have failed because of the quality of the politicians we have. They don't know better. Even the coalitions that we have had over the years, whether it is the NASA, CORD, Kenya Kwanza, Azimio, it is tribes, it's tribal leaders who are coming together, and they promise their tribesmen and tribeswomen things that are pie in the sky, things that will never happen. It can change. There is a small group of Kenyans who believe that the Kenyan project is possible.
Professor Plo Lumumba critiques with much passion the weakness of the Kenyan political landscape, the promotion of tribal affiliation in political circles instead of insisting on committed leadership toward the betterment of the nation. Kenya is a diverse country, like most of the nations in Africa, since there are over 40 ethnic groups. Diversity must not be a liability, but an asset. This unity helps in fostering socio-economic development within the nation. However, as Lumumba eloquently points out, the exploitation of tribal differences by self-serving leaders has entrenched division and stalled national growth. Tribalism and poor political leadership remain significant impediments to Kenya's progress. The tribalism in Kenya is not an organic development, but a construct to which the people have been subjected and exploited for political and economic reasons. Precise roots of this problem come back from the colonial era, since the British administration applied their tool of divide and rule. The colonialists favored those who sowed the grounds for division that are living on to this day by emphasizing ethnic difference. Kenyan leaders themselves also inherited and amplified these divisions post-independence. Rather than building a sense of national identity, politics would become deeply ethnicized. Instead, political parties became ethnic alliances, which were usually mobilized by the need to defend interests of a particular community. This situation is further exacerbated by the winner-takes-all political structure, in which ethnic groups view capture of state power as the only assurance of resource allocation and development for themselves. Bad political leadership has contributed to heightened tribal divisions in Kenya. Leaders often exploit ethnic sentiments to rally support, portraying elections as a zero-sum game, where one group's loss is another's gain. Campaigns frequently emphasize tribal identity rather than national vision or policies. This approach deepens mistrust among communities and polarizes the electorate. Moreover, public resources are often allocated along ethnic lines, with leaders prioritizing their communities in development projects and government appointments. This creates the belief that political power is an ethnic affair, with communities needing to fight for their own to be in power to get development and opportunities. It is this toxic cycle that has stunted Kenya's potential to grow into national cohesion and progress. Perhaps one of the most visible faces of tribalism is electoral violence. The 2007 to 2008 post-election crisis, marked by ethnic violence that caused over 1,100 deaths and the displacement of hundreds of thousands, was a clear pointer to the depth of Kenya's tribal divisions. And then, of course, there is the issue of resource allocation. Communities perceived as being outside the ruling regime are often marginalized. This nurtures economic disparities that are a source of resentment and therefore deepen ethnic divisions. The results of tribal politics are that it undermines the sense of Kenyan identity. Citizens are more loyal to their ethnic group than to the nation, hence undermining the possibility of collective action toward national goals. Leaders elected on the basis of ethnic affiliations rather than competence often lack the vision or capability to address national issues effectively. This perpetuates corruption, inefficiency, and underdevelopment. While Kenya grapples with tribalism, Tanzania provides a striking contrast. Yet, despite having more than 120 ethnic groups, Tanzania has been able to keep at bay tribalism and succeeded in forging a national identity. This can be attributed to deliberate policies and visionary leadership. Tanzania's first president, Julius Nyerere, laid a strong foundation for national unity. Nyerere had a philosophy called Ujamaa, African socialism, where he put in place the principles of equality and collective responsibility. He ensured no tribe felt superior or lesser than any other by actively discouraging ethnic politics. Kiswahili, the national language adopted, has been responsible for holding Tanzanians together. In Kenya, English and ethnic languages are dominant in different parts of the country. Kiswahili provides an easy means of communication and a shared identity in Tanzania. Decentralization policies ensure that resources and development projects are equitably shared throughout the country, eliminating feelings that one region or ethnic group has been favored over others. In Tanzania, political appointments and resource allocations are less likely to be dictated by ethnic considerations. The approach mentioned above has created confidence in the government and reduced ethnic tensions. It also spent copious resources on civic education, extolling the virtues of national unity and the evils of tribalism. Schools and public campaigns drove home the mantra of Tanzania first. Overcoming Kenya's tribalism requires a multi-layered effort, giving independent institutions like the judiciary and the electoral commission teeth to act impartially. This would decrease the feeling of bias in governance and ensure resources are distributed appropriately. Like Tanzania, Kenya should also declare Kiswahili a unifying language and invest in programs that will help in creating a shared sense of identity among its citizens. The change of such mindsets can be achieved through education, which shows the dangers of tribalism and the benefits of national unity. Schools should stress being Kenyan rather than ethnic affiliations. The electoral process has to be restructured to limit the winner-takes-all mentality. This could allow for more proportional representations or power-sharing models, which can ensure inclusiveness. Kenya needs leaders who shall put the interest of the nation above their ethnic group. Such leaders must spearhead policies that unite rather than divide and work toward equitable development. Deliberate efforts to bridge economic disparities between regions can reduce the perception that certain tribes are favored. This calls for transparency and fairness in resource allocation. Strict laws on hate speech and incitement to violence will ensure that politicians dare not use tribal sentiments during campaigns. The problems of Kenya in terms of tribalism are deep-seated, but not impossible to solve. This, as Professor Plo Lumumba often argues, will take bold, visionary leadership and a collective commitment to surmount these divisions. Kenya can learn from the successes of Tanzania, where strategies that put national unity over ethnic allegiances are pursued, and forge a new path toward prosperity and cohesion. Kenya's tribal diversity should be celebrated as a strength and not manipulated as a weakness. Its future lies in embracing the spirit of unity and making sure every citizen, irrespective of tribe, feels part of the national fabric.